Hello, this demonstration video will provide a brief tour of the PIPESIM user interface. Multiple versions of PIPESIM may be installed on the same computer and run at the same time using a single license file. However, it's important to understand that while models saved in earlier versions of PIPESIM can be opened in later versions, the same is not true for models saved in later versions of PIPESIM, as they cannot be opened in earlier versions. When you first launch PIPESIM, you'll see the new model screen. Here, you will be prompted to create a new or open an existing network-centric workspace, or create a new or open an existing well-centric workspace. The network-centric workspace has all functionality of the well-centric workspace. However, the well-centric workspace is simplified in terms of what is shown to the user if the interest is only in modeling individual wells. Below this, you'll see the license information, indicating which features are available, as shown here in green, and which features are not available, in which case this diamond will be red. Additionally, we can quickly open recent workspaces from this list shown on the right. There is also the Help menu, where we could open the PIPESIM Online Help. This help system can also be accessed from any dialog in PIPESIM by selecting the F1 key. There's also links to the SIS support portal. There's a demo videos folder, a case studies folder with many example models of wells, pipelines, and networks, and finally the ability to quickly send your model to Schlumberger for support purposes or to others as you feel necessary. Next, we have an Options tab, which allows us to configure the default unit system as well as customize unit systems. There is a Plugin tab to register plugins for user-defined flow correlations or user equipment. There's an Advanced Application Options tab, a Catalog tab that allows us to upgrade catalogs from previous versions that may contain user-defined pump or compressor curves, and finally, various options for the GIS map. Returning to the New Model tab, I'm now going to open an existing network. Here, I'm going to select from the Case Studies directory, Case Study 301 Small Network. I'll double-click to open that, and here you can see the network appear. Now, this particular network has one source, one well, a separator that sends the gas to a compressor and then through a pipeline to the sales point, and another line that carries the liquid to a pump and a pipeline to its facility. PIPESIM has a ribbon-style interface. The primary ribbon tab that you'll be using is the Home tab. Here, there are various simulation tasks that you can run, depending on which objects are selected. If no objects are selected, you can run a network simulation. However, in order to run other single-branch simulations, you need to select an object that contains a fluid source in order to activate these options. Next is the Simulation Settings menu. Here you can select the vertical and horizontal flow correlations of your choice, as well as single-phase flow correlations. You can use global or local options. Here in the Heat Transfer tab, we can configure various options that describe the methods used to calculate the heat transfer in PIPESIM. Next, we have options for erosion and corrosion models. The Environmental Data tab allows us to set global values for various environmental properties, such as the air temperature and wind speed, as well as the type of soil. And if it's an offshore system, we can select Met-Ocean data, which will provide the temperature and current as a function of depth. Next is the Output Variable tab. Here we can configure the various output variables that we see after we run a simulation for both profile and system variables. There are several templates that ship with PIPESIM that you may select. And finally, there's the Advanced tab, which is used for more advanced settings for your simulation model. Now, after closing this, we can look at the Flowline Manager. The flow line manager is a list of all flow lines in the model. You can easily change some of the values shown here in this table, or you could double click on a row to open the specific flow line editor so you can make changes here. Next, I'll talk about the fluid manager. There are 4 different types of fluid models in PIPESIM: black oil, compositional, PBT files or lookup tables, and multi-flash files. In this case, we're going to run with a compositional fluid model. Here, we can set the flash package and also select various other options, including the components in our system. From the Fluids tab, we can define multiple fluids and edit these individual fluids. And with the Fluid Mapping tab, we can associate the fluids that we've defined with the sources that introduce the fluids into our model. Next, in this group, we see our viewers. Here we can select to work within the network schematic or logical diagram, or choose to work within the GIS map. Also, we have a phase envelope viewer, which allows us to see, for compositional models, the phase envelope with the production path superimposed on it for branches that contains fluid sources. Finally, after we've run our simulation and we wish to view results, there are various options for looking at the flow direction, as well as other annotations that we can display. And also there is a results manager that will show us a list of the various simulation runs that we've made and allow us to view and analyze the results. This group here is the unit selection group. This allows me to quickly change any of the unit systems that are predefined in PIPESIM or that are customized from the Workspace Options menu. This group here is the application options, where I can view and edit catalogs of equipment and change the layout for PIPESIM. There are various layout options that position the inputs and task panes in various locations as defined based on your preference. The other tabs are specific to working with the network model itself. From the Insert tab, we see various groups here, such as boundary nodes, internal nodes, and connections. With these tools here, we can build our model. For example, if I wish to insert a source and connect it with a flow line, I can do that using these tools. So I'm going to delete this one. Once we've inserted all the objects comprising our model, we can edit these objects simply by double-clicking on them. Here we can modify the properties of these individual objects. And to select another object, you don't need to close this editor. You could simply select other objects from either the network diagram itself or from the inputs tree. So another thing to mention is if I select an object and I enter data that is invalid, you'll see a red box surrounding that field. If you mouse over the field, you'll see what the expected range for that particular value should be. Additionally, you'll see that there's a red sign on the validation pane, which shows which object has an invalid value. You can open the object by clicking on this link and make the correction. Next, we'll go back to the Home tab and select the Network Simulation task. Here, we configure the Network Simulation task with known boundary conditions, and when our number of supplied PQ specifications equals the number required, we can run the model. Once the model solves, we could then inspect the node and branch results in tabular format, as well as the profile results in either tabular format or graphical format. For more details on running a network simulation, please refer to the demo video on that topic. We can now save the model. When we save a PIPESIM model, regardless of whether it's a well-centric or network-centric workspace, it's all saved with the .pips extension. The actual results are saved in a folder with the same name with a .pipr extension. Finally, this N shown up here in the upper left-hand corner of the Home tab indicates that we're operating inside a network-centric workspace. This can be changed at any time to a well-centric workspace. When we enter a well-centric workspace, the options on our Home tab become simplified. The main viewing canvas is the well editor, and the insert toolbars allow us to build specifically the well model. If you have multiple wells in your workspace, you could select from amongst these wells with the selector here. And if you have surface equipment, for example, flow lines or chokes associated with a well, they can all be inserted from the Insert tab into this area here and edited in the well editor directly. This concludes the demonstration video of a tour of the PIPESIM user interface.